3 bone-chilling teacher tales that haunt your first day back. Never told before, the air hung thick with anticipation as the school bell rang, marking the return of students to the hallowed halls of Maplewood High. It was the first day back, but there was something unsettling in the atmosphere. Whispers echoed, shadows danced, and a sense of doom lurked in every corner. Stories of hauntings and chilling experiences from last year loomed over the new semester. Each tale was stranger than the last. Did you hear about the science lab? They say the ghost of a teacher, known for his obsession with odd experiments, still roams, searching for his lost formulas. Students reported strange noises, shadows flickering in the corners, and the eerie sensation of being watched while alone. As the clock struck 12, a scream cut through the chatter of the lunchroom. A girl dropped her tray, her face as pale as a whitewashed wall. "I saw him," she cried, eyes wide, trembling. Others gathered, curiosity igniting fear. "Who?" they asked, but she could only stammer, pointing towards the old wing of the school where the lockers stood like tombstones, silent witnesses of their fate. Suddenly, the haunting of old Maplewood wasn't just a story anymore, it was flesh and blood lurking in the shadows, and just when you thought the horror would pass, another story emerged, one that turned stomachs and twisted hearts. A beloved history teacher had vanished last September, just days before the school year started. No one spoke of him afterward, yet students claimed to feel his presence in the classrooms. Did his spirit linger, trapped in the very lessons he had once taught? Students swore they could hear his lectures at night, whispers mixing with chilling laughter. What really happened to him? Why did the faculty sweep his disappearance under the rug? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting eerie shadows throughout the school, a chill ran down the spine of each teacher and student. What happened next was beyond anyone's imagination. Out of nowhere, the school's PA system crackled to life, and an otherworldly, distorted voice echoed through the hallways. "Help me," it whispered, sending shivers down spines and cold sweats racing across foreheads. The bystanders froze, hearts pounding, breaths caught. Who was it? Was it the missing teacher, desperately searching for solace? Or something far more sinister? The tension in the air grew, thick enough to cut. Everyone felt it, the frantic energy, the fear, the excitement that something monumental was about to unveil. When the lights flickered, panic ebbed away as if the building itself was breathing. Shadows elongated, whispering secrets only the walls knew. Just then, a figure materialized, standing at the end of the corridor, mere darkness clothed in tears of light. The school's fate hung in the balance, and the pressing question echoed among all: would they uncover these bone-chilling tales or become mere characters in their own horror story? The figure at the end of the corridor was indistinct, a silhouette shifting with an unnatural grace. Students' breaths hitched, a wave of collective dread washing over them. "What is that?" someone whispered, the tension thickening like fog in the air. Their eyes locked on the thing, desperate to ascertain whether it was flesh or just a trick of the light. "Get back! Don't approach it!" shouted Jake, an upperclassman known for his skeptical views on the supernatural. But it was too late. A brave group edged forward, propelled by sheer curiosity, or maybe it was something darker. "Help me," the voice echoed again, more urgent this time. It sliced through the air like a knife, awakening gut-wrenching memories tied to their vanished teacher. The very hallways where they decrammed for tests now pulsated with a haunting rhythm, each heartbeat echoing in unison with their rising panic. "Who are you?" shouted a girl, her voice shaking but brave. "More importantly, where's Mr. Thompson?" another asked, their face ghostly pale. The name hung heavy in the air like a thick fog. Just as everyone expected a response, the lights flickered violently. The figure lost shape, transforming into a whirlpool of shadows and anguished whispers. Suddenly, the old brass bell above the entrance chimed ominously, deep and echoing in the stillness. It tolled once, twice, and then a chilling thrice, as students unknowingly edged toward one another, forming a barricade of fear. Anxiety gripped many, and glances darted seeking assurance, but finding only horror reflected back. "Did you hear that?" a boy said, heart racing. The whispers were back, slithering into each ear, weaving stories of despair, secrets never meant to resurface. "Someone's playing a prank, right?" He dared to suggest, yet doubt colored his tone. This felt too real. Snap, the PA system crackled once more. "Find the truth before it finds you," it echoed, the voice warped and twisted, an ominous melody that set teeth on edge. Then the bell tolled one last time, and the lights went dead. Darkness enveloped the room, palpable and stifling. Panic escalated. The air felt electric, teetering on the brink of chaos. Shadows groped for the frightened students. In that instant, the fear reached fever pitch. A chorus of gasps erupted, drowning in a storm of confusion. Out of the murky blackness, a piercing scream reverberated, echoing off the walls. "Run!" someone shouted suddenly. And like a dam bursting, the crowd surged towards the exits, bodies colliding in their desperation to escape whatever darkness lurked behind them, but there was one girl who stood frozen. Sarah's heart raced, and the whispers wrapped tightly around her thoughts. What truth, she wondered. A flicker of light caught her attention, illuminating a small note slipped beneath the old wooden lockers. Curiosity fought against the instinct to flee. What if this note held answers? Before she could reach for it, the corridor echoed with an unsettling sound, the low creaking of the old lockers shifting, as if something inside them stirred. And another voice emerged, this time sharper. "You shouldn't have come back." With fear igniting her impulses, she turned and ran, panic coursing through her veins. But the note, what if it held the key to unraveling a mystery that had only just begun? As Sarah dashed down the hall, the question loomed: would they escape the haunting? Or would they unveil a truth buried deep in Maplewood's shadows, one that could cost them more than just their first day back? The darkness loomed heavy above her, and time was running out. What would they find when the secrets of Maplewood finally revealed themselves? The corridor pulsed with silence after Sarah bolted away, her breath ragged in her chest. The flickering light seemed to join in her panic, stuttering as if afraid to light the way. Shadows chased her, twisting with every turn, but her mind was set. She had to find that note. Was it really just a harmless piece of paper? Or something more sinister? "Sarah! Wait!" Jake's voice broke through the fog of anxiety. He emerged from the shadows, eyes wide, face pale as he sprinted toward her. "What are you doing?" she panted, skidding to a halt, nearly colliding with him. "Did you see that? The figure, it's not just a figment." His words tumbled out, urgency framing every syllable. "We have to get out of here." "No." She shook her head violently. "We can't leave it like this. What if it's Mr. Thompson?" The thought made her stomach churn. The memory of their teacher's warm smile washed over her, mixed with nausea at the idea that he could be tied to something so horrifying. Jake glanced behind them as the echoes of frantic scrambling began to fade. "Listen, this isn't safe. Whatever that is, it's not human." He pointed back down the corridor, where darkness remained as thick as molasses, swallowing the remains of their panicked peers, but doubt gnawed at Sarah's resolve. "But what if there's a reason it's here? What if it needs our help?" She locked eyes with him, searching for something, an answer, a shred of courage. Instead, she found fear reflected back. "We have to find out the truth before." A sudden force slammed into the old wooden lockers, rattling them like an angry ghost. The echoes filled the hall like a warning. It was a sound that wrapped coils of dread around their hearts. "What was that?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. Let us go. Now. Jake reached for her hand, but she hesitated, her gaze drifting back to where the note had been. Just then, a dim light flickered to life at the end of the hall, captivating her attention. It pulsed rhythmically, and in that moment, she felt an inexplicable pull toward it. Without thinking, Sarah broke free of Jake's grip and rushed toward the source. "Sarah!" he shouted, panic thickening in his tone. The light grew brighter as she approached, illuminating the edges of what appeared to be a small alcove hidden between lockers. There, pressed against the wall, was the note, its old paper flickering with an eerie glow. Just a few steps away now. As she reached for it, an icy gust swept through the corridor, extinguishing what little warmth remained in the air. The light sputtered, and shadows deepened around them, forming shapes that danced and flickered with unsettling intent. "Sarah, don't!" Jake's voice was filled with urgency, but her fingers brushed the edges of the note. It felt alive, electric against her skin. Without pulling it free, she turned her head slightly to acknowledge Jake. He stood rigid, eyes darting behind her with terror, as behind her, the sound of slow, deliberate footsteps echoed through the corridor. She dared to glance over her shoulder. Emerging from the shadows was the figure, no longer just a silhouette but a visage shrouded in darkness, its features indistinct yet heavy with an overwhelming aura of despair. "You shouldn't have come back," it whispered again, the sound like gravel crunching underfoot. She felt the energy of the note pulse even stronger, urgency racing through her veins, drowning her in questions. "What truth?" she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. The figure stretched an arm out, fingers curling like tendrils into the air. It reached toward her, the atmosphere thickening, every instinct screaming at her to run. But it felt like a part of her was anchored to that note. "Sarah!" Jake's voice pulled her out of her daze. She tore her gaze away from the figure, but the pressure of the moment weighed down on her. Should she grab it? What would she unleash? In a flash, she made her decision, but the moment was fragile, suspended in terror. The figure stepped closer, shadows swirling in a monstrous dance, and Jake's hand gripped her shoulder hard enough to break her reverie. "Let us go. Now!" he shouted, urgency crackling through his voice, and just as she felt compelled to escape, the weight of the note whispered louder, what did it hide? And could they outrun whatever darkness was now closing in on them? As they bolted down the hall, the urgency intensified. Time was slipping. The truth was elusive, lurking just out of reach, and every second spent was a second closer to the unknown. What awaited them when the shadows finally consumed them? The air grew thicker around them as they sprinted down the corridor, their footsteps pounding against the old tiles, echoing in a rhythm that matched their racing hearts. Sarah felt the electric pulse of the note still tingling on her fingertips, a strange urgency urging her to look back, to seize it, but fear coiled tightly in her chest. With every step they took, the shadows behind them seemed more alive, and the whispers of the figure lingered in the air, taunting them, chilling their every instinct to flee. "Where are we even going?" Jake shouted, glancing over his shoulder. The figure still lingered there, moving with an unnatural slowness, yet somehow keeping pace with their frantic escape. Shadows twisted and morphed, offering glimpses of something almost grotesque. Sarah's thoughts spun like a carousel. "We have to find a way out. We can't just keep running." The panic spilled into her voice, rising like bile. How had they gotten themselves into this? Turning sharply around a corner, they burst into an empty classroom, the smell of dust and disuse hitting them like a brick wall. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, and papers lay strewn across the desks, abandoned, forgotten. She threw herself against the wall as Jake slammed the door shut, locking it with trembling fingers. "Did it follow us?" Jake whispered, eyes wide, searching the corners of the room for any signs of the entity. The silence felt oppressive, like the air was clinging to them, suffocating. I don't know." Sarah's voice quivered. They pressed their backs against the wall, breathing heavily, trying to calm the storm of fear brewing between them. "This doesn't make sense. What does it want from us?" A sudden crash echoed from the hallway, sending them both jumping at the sound. They shared a look, and in that moment, guilt flooded through her. "We shouldn't have come here," she murmured, the weight of their choices crashing down on her. Maybe it wants that note," Jake said softly, his brow furrowing with thought. "What if we run back and get it? It could be our only chance to understand what's really happening." No. What if it's a trap?" Sarah's heart raced, conflicting wants tugging her in every direction. "We're already in danger. We can't take the risk." Just then, the lights flickered and dimmed, drawing her gaze toward the door. The figure's shadow stretched under the crack, dark and menacing. Its presence loomed, hungry and vast, blocking their only exit. Jake's whisper was a strangled breath. They could see the outline of what twisted behind the door, no longer merely a shadow, but a shape that seemed to swell and contort, coiling as if waiting to strike. Before they could breathe, the door rattled violently. The wood creaked under the pressure, a sound that sent spikes of panic shooting through them. "It's coming for us!" Jake yelped, grabbing her wrist, and they stumbled backward into the darkness of the room. The rattling stopped, and for a moment, silence settled thick around them, filling the air with an eerie expectation. Just as they dared to hope it had lost interest, a low, growling voice seeped through the cracks. "You shouldn't have escaped." In a surge of desperation, Sarah felt a flicker of understanding. "Maybe it can't cross the threshold, at least for now," she whispered, hope mingling with fear. "We have to make it to the exit. Now." But before they could dart toward what they hoped led to freedom, the lights flickered out completely, plunging them into darkness. A cold breeze swept across the room, a phantom touch that chill ran down her spine. The figure's growl deepened into an unnerving laugh, reverberating off the walls. "Do you want to know the truth?" it crooned, tauntingly. "You can't escape what you don't understand." In that moment, Sarah realized they were trapped not only by the physical darkness surrounding them but by the terrifying truth that lay just beyond their grasp. "What do we do?" Jake's voice wavered, raw with fear. Sarah searched within herself for courage she wasn't sure she had. They had to find a way to understand the darkness lurking in the hall, but there was one thing she knew for certain: if they ever wanted to escape, they first had to confront their greatest fear. As they held each other, trying to gather strength against the unknown, a flash of light illuminated the room, revealing something hidden in a corner, shimmering and thrumming with energy. It was calling to them, but was it salvation or doom? The question hung between them like the weight of a blade, and as they prepared to step forward into the light, a new fear twisted deep within Sarah. What if the answer they sought was more terrifying than the shadows that hunted them? The light pulsed in rhythm as if it had a heartbeat, casting strange shadows across the walls of the barren classroom. Sarah felt a pull, drawing her closer toward whatever lay in that glowing corner. It throbbed with an otherworldly energy, and part of her wanted to retreat, to shield herself from the unknown. But the curiosity, mixed with a desperate need for answers, pushed her forward. "Don't," Jake pleaded, gripping her arm. "What if it's a trap?" His voice cracked with fear, and she could see the struggle in his eyes. Should they face the light, or hide in darkness? But the entity outside was patient, a predator poised to strike, and they had to make a choice. "Jake, we need to know what we're dealing with," Sarah whispered back, her pulse quickening. "If it can't get us now, then maybe we can get a glimpse of what it wants." She took a step toward the shimmering light, Jake reluctantly letting go of her grip but keeping close. As they stepped cautiously into the glow, the air crackled. The light illuminated an object, a mirror, old and cracked, yet eerily beautiful. It seemed to draw from the energy of the room, swirling with colors they had never seen in the daylight. "What is this?" Jake muttered, eyes wide, drinking in the sight. "No idea," Sarah admitted, her heart hammering in her chest. "But something tells me it's important." She reached out, hesitant fingers brushing the surface. The moment she touched the mirror, images flooded her mind, flashes of memories not her own. Faces twisted in fear, people running, echoes of laughter that turned into screams. Each image was like a shard of glass slicing through her consciousness. She recoiled, stepping back, breathless. "Sarah. What did you see?" Jake's voice cut through the fog, urgent and laced with concern. I don't know. It was horrible, she gasped, still feeling the remnants of those terrifying visions. It was like a warning. Something terrible happened here. Just then, the crashing sound came again, louder this time, shaking the walls around them. The entity outside stirred, its growl morphing into a deafening roar that resonated through the very foundation of the building. The door shuddered violently, rattling in its frame. The door's not going to hold. Jake yelled, his eyes darting toward the entrance. They needed to act, and fast. The mirror was the only thing that felt significant in that moment. Maybe it can show us a way out, she exclaimed, her mind racing. If it holds the truth, maybe it also holds the key. Are you insane? Jake shouted back, panic suffusing his voice. Whatever that thing is, it's linked to all of this. They hesitated, but as the growling intensified, a low, menacing thump shook the door once more. The walls seemed to close in, ensnaring them in a vice of dread. Sarah made up her mind, her heart swelling with a mix of determination and terror. Get ready. She shouted, diving toward the mirror again, each heartbeat merging with the thud of the figure's assault. As she pressed her fingers against the glass, she felt the connection deepen. The images whirled furiously, angst, rage, despair, but alongside them, a path began to form, bright and obscured, threading through the chaos. Come on. Jake, help me. She urged him towards the mirror. We have to focus together. Trust me. Reluctantly, he joined her, their palms pressed against the surface as the sounds of the abyss reverberated in their ears, closing in on them. Stand strong. They willed together, the surface shimmered violently, and suddenly a blinding flash erupted, engulfing the room in light. For a moment, silence fell. The darkness that had pursued them was shattered, but so was the classroom they knew. And just as quickly, the ground beneath them trembled. The last thing Sarah saw before being consumed by light was Jake's terrified expression, twisted between trust and fear. Then, nothing but white that as their surroundings faded, voices rose within the void, swirling with an urgency that clawed at her mind. You're not the first, nor will you be the last. Face the truth or perish. When the light finally receded, they found themselves in a dimly lit corridor, different but familiar, the air thick with memories begging to be uncovered. Sarah pushed herself up, the taste of fear still heavy in her throat, but something was wrong. The hall was eerily silent, save for one echoing sound, the unmistakable rhythm of footsteps approaching. Where are we? Jake whispered, dread creeping back into his voice, touching each word with candles of panic. Something sinister lurked in the corners of her mind, and suddenly she understood what had happened wasn't over. They had stepped deeper into the maze, and now there was no turning back. That a chilling laugh resonated, the echoes entwining with the sound of their footsteps as they ventured into the unknown, unraveling the horrors that awaited them at every turn. What awaited them next? Only the walls knew, and they were listening. The corridor loomed ahead, painted in shades of gray and heavy with an oppressive silence. Each footfall resonated, a staccato beat in the stillness, urging them forward yet binding them with a creeping dread. Sarah's heart raced, echoing the quickening footsteps that loomed behind them, shadows of memories forgotten racing to emerge. Are you sure we should keep going? Jake whispered, his voice trembling. He kept glancing back, as if expecting danger to materialize from the very walls. We don't have a choice, Sarah replied, resolving to shake off the fear coiling around her chest. This place, it has secrets we need to uncover. If the mirror holds truth, maybe this corridor leads us there. With each step, the air thickened, turning colder as the shadows widened. Flickering lights above intermittently revealed flickers of movement, flashes of something just out of sight. Was it her imagination? Or was the corridor alive, shifting in response to their presence? Suddenly, a door creaked open to her right, a heavy wooden slab pulled by an unseen hand. A gust of wind rushed out, wrapping around them like icy fingers. This way, she said, instinct drawing her toward it. She stepped inside without hesitating. Jake followed closely, casting wary glances behind. The room was a library, but not like any she had ever seen. Dust motes swirled in the beams of light, illuminating bookshelves that soared toward a vaulted ceiling. But it wasn't the size or grandeur that gripped her. It was the constant murmuring of voices whispering from the pages of the books, words rising like a ghostly chorus. "This is strange," Jake murmured, looking over her shoulder at the titles. "It feels haunted." "It is," Sarah replied, flipping through the text of a nearby tome. The mark of age seeped through the brittle pages, each one a testament to countless years. "Maybe they hold the answers we've been searching for." Just then, the whispers escalated, a low hum that made her skin crawl. One book fell from its perch, crashing to the floor beneath her feet. She startled and bent to pick it up, brushing off the dust. The title read, "Parables of the Lost." "I think whoever was here before us," she whispered, the words feeling like a confession. "They didn't make it out. It must have been a warning." Jake scanned the room, apprehension creeping in deeper. "We should go. This place is wrong. It's too quiet. Too alive." She ignored him, opening the book. As she began to read, dark phrases leapt out, forming chilling accounts of souls trapped by their secrets. Each story was spiked with horror, echoing their predicament. Flickers of shadows darted between the shelves, a silent audience to their growing dread. "Look." Sarah pointed towards a section of literature, peculiar symbols carved into the spines. "Maybe these can help us. There has to be something here that shows us how to escape." But before she could reach for one, a cold breeze swept through the library, slamming the doors shut behind them. Darkness enveloped them. Heart pounding, Sarah turned, the whispers crescendoing into a cacophony that shrieked with fear and fury. She couldn't see anything, but she could feel the pressure building, 1,000 eyes watching from the shadows. "Sarah." Jake's voice was frantic now, laced with desperation. "We need to get out. Now." As she began to back up toward the door, the ground beneath them shuddered, and a heavy thud reverberated through the air. The source of the noise was unyielding, relentless, growing closer. Suddenly, the lights flickered back to life, and one figure loomed at the edge of the light. A specter of a teacher, her face twisted in torment, a forgotten soul pleading for release. "Your secrets bind you." She shrieked, and Jake stumbled back, fear painting his face. Sarah felt her heart stop. "No, what do you want?" She took a step closer, curiosity battling against fear, unwilling to let go. "Face the truth or perish," the ghostly visage hissed, eyes wide with ancient sorrow. The silence that followed was suffocating, trapping them in a moment that felt infinite. And just as quickly, the specter dissolved into a swirl of dust, leaving only the echo of her warning behind. They stood frozen in the aftermath, breathless with dread. "What just happened?" Jake whispered, eyes wide. "Whatever this place is, it knows us," Sarah said. "But we can't keep running. We must confront the truth it wants us to see." But even she felt the weight of uncertainty settle in. Outside the library, the corridor howled, daring them to step back into the shadows. How could they confront the truth if they didn't even understand it? As they hesitated, the murmurs faded into silence, a heavy stillness enveloping the room once more. Could they uncover what lay ahead before whatever haunted this place returned? What was waiting in the shadows? What truth would they have to face? The silence was palpable, as if the very air conspired against them. Sarah's hands trembled as she clenched the book, the pages still whispering secrets even as the voices faded into an eerie quiet. As the unsettling stillness enveloped them, every rustle felt like a scream, every inch of shadow seemed to pulse with a heartbeat. "Sarah, we can't stay here," Jake urged, glancing nervously at the walls, as if they might reach out and swallow him whole. "That ghost she was warning us. Don't you get it?" "I do get it," she snapped, the adrenaline coursing through her veins lending her an edge. "But we need to know what she meant. What truth are we avoiding?" Before any response could come, the library quivered again, a soft vibration rippling through the ground beneath them. The light flickered, this time plunging them into darkness without warning. Panic gripped Sarah, her breath hitching in her throat. "Jake!" But the words didn't come out as a shout, they were a desperate whisper in the void. She felt her way back toward the door, her palms grazing the cool wood. Jake's silhouette loomed beside her, and she felt his warmth. It steadied her heart, even for a fleeting moment. "Wait," he froze, the tremor in his voice betraying him. "Did you hear that?" From beyond the door, the sound of faint laughter danced into the stillness, mocking in its innocence. Suddenly, it transformed into an agonized wail, a cacophony of shrieks that echoed off the ancient walls, sending chills skittering down Sarah's spine. Then, as abruptly as it started, everything went still again. Sarah's pulse raced as she pressed her ear against the barrier. There was a rhythm to the silence, something almost alive. "What do we do?" Jake was nearly pleading now, his eyes wild. "We can't go out there, but we can't stay in here either." Sarah's mind raced. "We look for answers. If this library is a doorway or a trap." He interrupted, his voice rising, spiders of fear crawling back into his tone. A sudden shelf rattled violently, books tumbling down as though propelled by invisible hands. One of them opened mid-air, revealing pages filled with reflective ink that shimmered in a way that felt almost sentient. Caught between curiosity and terror, Sarah extended a hand. "Look. There's something in there," she said, entranced. The book fluttered, stopping and showing a single stark image, a reflection of a mirror, but distorted, warped, like a funhouse version of reality with dark tendrils snaking around the edges. "What the hell?" Jake breathed, inching closer. With a sudden determination, Sarah seized the book, the whispering voices crescendoing in response to her touch. The library shook again, dust showering down like warnings from above. "I think it's trying to tell us something." Inside, several entries flashed by, each snippet a story of betrayal, of lost hopes, of teachers who fell to their darkest fears. Examples of their own lives mirrored within. What would they take away from that? "Sarah," Jake said, urgency creeping back into his voice, "whatever this is, it's not just a library. These stories, they could be our lives. If we stay, we could become part of them. Then we need to find a way to break it." Sarah shouted over the rising din, flipping through the pages. And when her fingers landed on a phrase that seemed to emit a dull glow, she felt a surge of energy wash over her. "Here. It talks about a way to face the shadows, a ritual of sorts. We have to prepare ourselves." The laughter returned again, louder this time, mocking and cruel. Shadows danced just beyond the edges of the light, and Sarah knew they had to act before it became their doom. "What if it consumes us?" Jake asked, locking eyes with her, fear skimming the surface of his resolve. "Then we'll face it together," she said, trying to breathe some courage into him. "Whatever this truth is, we can't hide. We need to embrace it." But before they could make another move, the shelves began to shudder violently as if the shadows were fighting back. Books flew from their perches, chaos erupting all around them. "Sarah! We have to go now." Jake grabbed her arm. "Wait. We can't turn back." Just then, the ground split open beneath their feet, a dark chasm threatening to swallow everything in its wake. The library groaned, walls bending and swaying as they fought desperately to stay grounded. "Jump!" Sarah yelled as she grasped Jake's hand, adrenaline surging in her veins. They leaped into the unknown. What awaited them in the depths? Could they summon the strength to confront the shadows that threatened to consume them whole? The air rushed past them, a chilling breeze that felt like the grip of 1,000 icy fingers. Sarah and Jake tumbled through the darkness, the world above them vanishing as a cacophony of nightmarish sounds filled their ears. Whispers echoed and morphed into screams, the voices of the library swirling around them like a tempest. With a jarring thud, they landed soft earth meeting their fall, a contrast to the chaos they had escaped, yet ominously silent. Sarah pushed herself up, her heart thundering like a drum. She blinked, adjusting to the dim light that filtered through the trees, revealing twisted branches that reached out like clawing hands. "Where are we?" Jake's voice broke through her thoughts, shaky but edged with curiosity. I don't know," she said, scanning their surroundings. The landscape was unrecognizable. This was no part of the library. Shadows shifted among the trees, darting just out of her line of sight. She felt like they had leaped straight into a nightmare. "Look!" Jake pointed ahead. A small clearing revealed several ancient stone monuments, each etched with strange markings that seemed to pulse with energy. The air buzzed with an unseen force, a magnetic pull beckoning them closer. They exchanged a glance, a mix of wonder and dread settling in deep. "Do you think it has something to do with the ritual?" he asked. "Maybe it could be a part of it." Sarah felt a strange compulsion, an insistent tug towards the stone formations. "We have to check it out." As they approached, the symbols glowed faintly, a haunting beauty that contrasted sharply with their grim reality. "These are the stories," Sarah murmured, her fingers brushing over the carvings. "They're echoes of everything this place has endured. We might find a way out if we can understand them." Suddenly, a gust of wind whipped through the clearing, lifting leaves and debris into a whirling frenzy. The shadows began to swirl around the monuments, coalescing into ghostly figures, distorted faces locked in expressions of rage and sorrow. The laughter from the library returned, this time twisted and malevolent, and Sarah felt the specters closing in. "Back away!" Jake shouted, grabbing Sarah's arm with a fierce grip. But it was too late. The figures surged forward, merging into one monstrous entity, an amalgamation of fear, anger, and lost hopes. Its voice resonated with agonizing familiarity. "Why have you come to disturb our rest? What are you?" Sarah stammered, trapped in the creature's gaze. The shadows seemed to seep into her soul, pulling at her deepest fears. "I am the keeper of stories unspoken. Each life lost feeds my eternal hunger," it hissed, the words echoing in her mind, surfacing memories of her own doubts and failures. "You are the brave, yet you run away from your own truth." "No!" Jake yelled, pulling Sarah back. "We came to confront the darkness." A sudden clarity ignited within Sarah. "We can't let you intimidate us. We know you're a part of us. Our fears, our regrets, but we control our own stories." The creature recoiled momentarily, uncertainty flickering in its hollow eyes. "Speak your truth," then it snarled. "Face to face with the darkness you fear." They squared their shoulders, hearts pounding, breaths quickening. The monument glowed brighter as if feeding off their resolve. Together, they began to recount their own fears, the weight of expectations, the pulse of past failures, and the haunting memory of a door left unopened. With each confession, the figure writhed, the shadows slashing out as if cut by their honesty. "Sarah!" Jake shouted, voices rising above the storm, "We need to say it all. Every time we let fear win, every moment we doubted ourselves." In that moment of vulnerability, the ground trembled beneath them, shaking loose the remnants of their fears. The entity shrieked, a cacophony of souls it fed upon, anger twisting its form into chaotic shadows. As the last words escaped their lips, the darkness screamed in rage, collapsing inward. But something unexpected happened. The ground glowed, radiating warmth that spread through the forest, blocking the shadows from advancing. They both fell silent, the air stilling as hope stirred amidst the chaos. "Did we do it?" Jake whispered, brow furrowed in disbelief. No sooner had the light enveloped them than the shadows began to pull back, retreating into the darkness of the trees. But the moment was fragile. A foreboding stillness settled, making Sarah's skin prick with unease. "What's next?" Jake questioned, scanning the darkened edges of the clearing, where the shadows lingered, but before she could answer, the ground beneath them trembled again, and emblazoned words materialized on the stone monuments. One truth remained. Sarah felt a chill race through her. They had barely chipped the surface of the enigma. What lay ahead could change everything. What truth awaited them? The specters murmured, their voices mingling with the rustle of leaves, pressing forward with a terrible urgency. Would they find closure, or would this all consume them wholly? The ethereal glow from the stone monuments flickered, casting eerie shadows that seemed to breathe around Sarah and Jake. The silence was both comforting and terrifying, wrapping around them like a heavy, suffocating blanket. The air felt thicker here, each breath becoming a struggle, as if they were inhaling the weight of countless stories untold. "Did you see that?" Jake said, his eyes wide, darting back to the stones where the words pulsed red. "What do you think it means?" "I don't know, but I feel like we're in the heart of it now," Sarah replied, her voice barely above a whisper. A surge of apprehension coursed through her. What truth remained? Each heartbeat echoed louder than the last, quickening the rhythm of fear. Suddenly, from the shadows, a figure materialized, a woman cloaked in tattered gray, her face obscured by the veil of darkness that surrounded her. "You too," she rasped, a voice like gravel against glass, "are here to confront what you fear most. But know this, the truth demands a toll." "What kind of toll?" Jake asked, instinct taking over as he stepped in front of Sarah. "The truth you seek is buried deep within, and may cost you more than you imagine." The shadowy woman gestured with a skeletal finger to the monuments. "It needs a sacrifice, the truth of your heart." Sarah's stomach twisted, a knot of dread forming as each word struck her like a physical blow. "We already faced our fears. We told you about our failures." Her voice wavered, clinging to the bravery she was trying to muster. The figure tilted her head, a chilling smile forming. "That was just the beginning. To uncover the one truth that remains, you must know what you are willing to lose. No one escapes unscathed." Sarah exchanged a frantic look with Jake. They both understood that this moment would either forge their path to freedom or bind them to the darkness forever. "What do we have to do?" Jake steadied his breathing, fear creeping into his words. "Speak your truth," the shadowy woman urged. "But do not speak lightly. Each confession will demand a price from your soul." The darkness seemed to close in on them, echoing the fear that had latched onto them since they stepped into the library. They had already faced fragments of their past, this felt different. This demanded everything. "Sarah, I don't think we have a choice," Jake said, gripping her hand tightly. "We have to trust this will lead us home." As the air crackled with tension, Sarah felt an invisible weight settle upon her chest, every heartbeat bringing forth flashes of her life, every moment she had run from truth, every thanks she had left unspoken, every dream deferred. I was afraid to chase my dreams. Afraid I'd fail. My whole life, I've let that fear consume me," she confessed, her voice trembling. With each spoken word, a spinning force began to swirl around them. The woman stepped closer, nodding, as if absorbing every syllable, but Sarah wasn't done. "I owe it to myself to fight against that fear. I must own that part of my story." The ground shifted beneath her, as roots and dirt coiled upward, vibrating with her conviction. Jake's brow furrowed deeper, then steadied his resolve. "And I've let others dictate my worth. I lost myself trying to please everyone. I have to reclaim my voice." The shadows pulsed violently, writhing in response to their honesty like a wounded beast. Jake and Sarah stood firm, fear igniting the fire in their hearts. But just as they started to feel the surge of strength, the woman raised her hand. "Enough. In your honesty, you've unleashed a part of yourselves, but its toll is yet to be revealed." A piercing wail erupted from the depths of the shadows, as a torrent of anguished screams spiraled around them, feeding off their confessions. The warmth they had felt began to drain, leaving a chilling emptiness in its wake. "What did we do?" Sarah gasped, as the stone monuments reflected the swirling darkness now. "Worse than you can imagine," the woman's voice echoed, fading into the screams that grew louder, drowning out all hope. "The truth unveiled is only the beginning. The way forward is fraught with darkness, and what you feared losing will become what you must confront next." The shadows began converging, seeming to whisper dark secrets into their ears, threatening to envelop them. "Sarah, hold on!" Jake shouted above the din, panic flaring in his eyes. But suddenly, the ground quaked violently beneath them, shaking loose more than just fears. A rumbling force crashed forward, sending them tumbling back as the darkness surged to reclaim the clearing. They had shattered the silence, but now, chaos erupted. There was no telling if the cost would be too great. Would they emerge from the depths of their own fears? Or would the darkness swallow them whole, forever lost in its clutches? As the shadows swirled, they caught sight of a glimmering portal flickering in the distance. Hope. Or just another trap? The air was thick with tension, each moment stretching into eternity as looming dread filled their hearts. What stared back at them from beyond was yet another mystery waiting to unfold. The swirling shadows loomed heavy around Sarah and Jake, their veil of darkness threatening to consume all hope. Fear crept in like an uninvited guest as they exchanged frantic glances. Did they dare to step forward into that flickering portal? "Whatever happens," Jake said, his voice steadier than his heart, "we face it together." A determined nod from Sarah anchored them momentarily. They pushed through the lingering dread, racing toward the flickering light that shimmered like a star in the enveloping abyss. As they drew closer, the portal expanded, pulsating with a warm glow. It felt like sunshine against the cold, biting shadows. Light poured forth, illuminating fragments of memories swirling before them, a tapestry of laughter and joy, old friendships, and dreams waiting lifetimes to be sparked back to life. "What is this?" Jake asked, breathless, as they paused at the threshold. "Hope," Sarah whispered, stepping forward. "It's everything we yearned for but forgot in the grip of our fears." With newfound courage surging through them, they reached for each other's hands and crossed the threshold together, the warmth swallowing them whole. In a heartbeat, they found themselves standing in the familiar hallway of Maplewood High, the old wallpaper flaking gently, sunlight spilling through dusty windows. It felt like they had never left, but the air buzzed with something different, an electric sense of calm, a newfound clarity. But questions still hung heavy, thick like fog. The shadows they once feared no longer felt menacing. Instead, they felt like echoes of their own resilience, remnants of lessons learned. "Did we do it?" Jake asked, glancing around as if the spirits of the school would provide answers. "I think so," Sarah replied, her voice full of resolve. "We faced what we needed to. We confronted our fears, and we chose to step back into the light." Suddenly, the familiar figure of Mr. Thompson appeared at the end of the corridor, smiling gently, just as they remembered. But he seemed more ethereal, as if woven from the very fabric of the light itself. "Sarah, Jake," he said warmly, his voice wrapping around them like a blanket. "You have both found the way back. Understanding fear does not mean succumbing to it, it means embracing it to unlock the truth buried deep within." Sarah felt her heart swell as a tear slipped down her cheek. "We thought we lost you," she managed, struggling to keep her voice steady. "You could never lose what lives in your hearts. I have always been a part of this place, of you. You faced the darkness and discovered the truth, your truths, and that will guide you forward." But then, the spectral glow began to envelop him, the light shimmering around him as if he were being pulled back into its embrace. "No!" Jake shouted, instinctively stepping forward. "What happens now?" "Now you live. You carry my lessons, my spirit, with you and find your paths," he replied, his voice fading slightly. "Remember, growth often needs darkness to flourish. You must listen to your fears, then step beyond them. When you embrace your truth, the shadows fade." And just like that, he dissipated into the air, leaving behind a sense of release, a whisper of comfort. The corridors of Maplewood buzzed with life around them, and students began filtering in, laughter cascading like a waterfall over their shoulders. The fear that once gripped the hallways melted away into the sounds of a new beginning. "Everything feels different now," Jake said softly, looking around at the vibrant life that colored the school. Sarah smiled, wiping her tears. "Because we are different. We faced our fears, Jake. We stepped into the light." They stepped forward together, laughter echoing against the old walls, feeling light as air as if the shadows themselves had cheered them on from the edge. This was their story now, and they were determined to write it with every ounce of resilience and love they could muster. As they walked toward the bustling throng of students, Sarah glanced back one last time, the shadows still shifting but now woven into the fabric of her understanding instead of lurking in the corners of her mind. They would always carry their fears, but they would no longer let those fears define them. This was just the beginning. Now, what are you waiting for? You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything.